Hey guys, this is Dave with Dave's Corridors and Keeley Fish. I wanted to do a short video, or a live video I guess, on my drain system for my fish tanks. All of my fish tanks are on one drain and fill system. I have two holding tanks. One is a 100-gallon holding tank and one is a 65-gallon holding tank. I have both of my tanks drilled out toward the bottom of the tanks, and I have a valve in line that turns the water from my tank on and off. I went ahead and put a second one in for tap water, and I'll explain that in a minute. So my RO drain system is all gravity fed. So I take all the tanks are hooked up on basically a drain line that also fills each tank coming out of the holding tank. Instead of using a big holding tank on the ground and using a pump and all that, I just find that this works easier for me. So I went ahead and did it this way. So once each one of these is primed, the water is already in the pipe. It will, by opening the valve, I can open my drain line valve, which is down on the ground level. So that's down here. I can open this valve up, and then I can open up any one of my tank, and it will start to drain. And so as it drains out, all of the water goes out and out into my flower beds outside. So to fill them, what I do is, after I get done draining all my tanks, and each one of my tanks has a foam, basically a foam filter cut up that I put in the inside of the PVC pipe, so so I don't suck up any fry or any babies or anything like that. So after I get done draining my tanks, to fill the tanks, what I do is I leave this valve open, and all my tanks are drained. I've got my tanks drained halfway, 50%. Most of the time you want to do a 25% water change, but on a lot of my tanks I like to do a 50%. So that's just what I do. And so once they're all completely drained, to fill them, what I do is I go ahead and open up my tap water line up here, and this flushes all of my drain system. All of the tap water goes through all of the drain systems, and then I let it drain outside for a little while, and then I go ahead and close my valve. So my drain valve is closed, and then I go ahead and I open my fill valve. I make sure that the tap water is off, and I open up the RO water, and it will start to drain. And then I open the valve up. Once all the air is back out of the lines, it goes ahead and starts to fill the tank. I can go ahead and I take my foam filter back out. Once the tank is filled up, then I can go ahead and close my valve. And it takes just a couple of minutes, actually about a minute and a half to fill my tank. I use all 1/2-inch PVC. And the reason I don't really have to worry about contaminants from one tank to another tank is because I flush it with the tap water before I add the RO water to my tank. So once my tanks are filled up, I can go ahead and close my valve off. Once I close this valve off, there's water from this valve up and into the tank. So it's basically primed and ready to drain. So then I go ahead and put my foam filter back in. And I just push it in there. That way any fry or babies don't get sucked up. And then to drain the system, again, I just close my valve and open my drain valve, and then it drains the tank. Over here on this side, I finished my rack that I was working on, as you can see. But for all the tanks that are above my head and really more or less above half of the holding tank capacity, the water won't go into the top tanks. So what I've done is I've added a 250 gallon an hour pump that pumps the water up and into the top tanks of my hatchery. And so all of the top tanks can get filled up the exact same way. Except for I'm not using gravity on those. To drain them, it's all gravity. I have multiple drains. So each section has a drain line that goes outside. And as far as hospital or quarantine tanks go, I have tanks set up over here that I use that are not on the system at all, because those are going to be the tanks that I use for my hospital tanks. So I can add medications. I like to, when I get my new fish in, I like to give them a good antibacterial flake food and a deworming flake food. And I'll do that for 20 to 30 days prior to putting them into the main system. And so that's pretty much the gist of it. These are really simple to make. A PVC valve. I use all 1/2 inch, so I'm using a PVC ball valve, and then a T, and then I use just a short 2-inch piece, and then depending on the size tank that you use, your upriser, and then 2 elbows and a small piece in the middle, and then a 6 to 8 inch piece going into the tank. So depending on what size tank you have, you can make these up for any size tank. All right, I hope this helps you all out a little bit. And I'm pretty safe and pretty confident in the fact that I don't really have to worry about too many different diseases going through my fish room. So I hope everybody has a good day. Talk to y'all later. One more thing I'll show you is my brine shrimp hatchery. I got it made, and it's working great. So I have 2 tanks set up there for brine shrimp. Eventually I'll try to figure out a way I can add a light so I don't have to use a flashlight. But I have a valve up here I turn off, and the brine shrimp hatchery stops flowing. I let them settle down to the bottom and drain them out. I went ahead and took the ball valve off. I had this ball valve on one of them, and it just didn't work the way I wanted it to. And so I took it off and just added a straight coupler. Basically, it's a coupler, brass coupler that you can buy at Ace Hardware or any hardware store. And then a 1/4 inch drain line to my plastic tubing. And so to drain it, all I have to do is turn the water off, or the air off, disconnect the tube, and then drain it into my my bowl, and then put it back on, and then turn it back on. So I made 2 of these. They hold about 1.5 gallons of water, versus this one here, which holds about 1 liter of water. So I get much bigger hatch rates out of these 2. And so that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, feel free to post or respond. All right. Thanks for watching.